Hi, it's Diana. I am making ice cream to go with the Emperor of Ice Cream. And here are my ingredients. I'm making ginger ice cream, which is my favorite. So I'm using fresh ginger, ground ginger, and crystallized ginger. This is very exciting because it should have a very gingery flavor. And just like gingerbread, I do love ginger flavor in ice cream. I'm also using heavy whipping cream and whole milk and some sugar. That's my big thing of sugar. There's also, Karo syrup or corn syrup, salt, sprinkling the salt. I like to use kosher salt. Eggs, a lot of eggs. So that makes this a frozen custard. Now it's time to start the cutting. So I need a half a cup of crystallized ginger, and I do use a paring knife for this. My knife skills are not great, but they work for me. So it's going to take a while. And here we go. Just about a half a cup. It gets very sticky. Now I'm combining things in my saucepan. That in there is the cut up fresh ginger, and here is the ground ginger. It's also going to have the milk and cream, some of the sugar and corn syrup, and then this will be, sifted out. Otherwise, that big old pieces of ginger would become quite interesting to chew in the ice cream. Also, if I weren't going to take them out, I would have peeled them. And my favorite way to peel ginger is with a vegetable peeler. I use a Cook's Illustrated recipe for this called Triple Ginger Ice Cream. It's the first time I make this recipe, though I've made ice cream before. Also, I'm going to be using an electric ice cream turner. I don't know if that's the official name. And the canisters for that are in the freezer now, and they have been in the freezer overnight. 1 3/4. Okay, here goes the milk. And I'm not quite sure why I'm using a dry measuring cup. It was a choice I made, maybe to save dishes. And one of my favorite things, I am a person who loves to get every little bit out. And one of my favorite tools to do that is that red spatula for scraping jars that I got at Sur La Table. For the corn syrup, I usually spray with spray oil the measuring container I'm going to use. If it had used the same one as the cream, then I wouldn't have had to do it because the fat in the cream would have kept the corn syrup from sticking. The spray just makes it kind of roll out of there instead of sticking and leaving a layer in. All right, there's the sugar. And if a recipe allows, if it gives weights, I always weigh. This one does not, so I've measured it. And I'll be adding the egg yolks to the sugar. So one thing I learned when doing this recipe, and I make 2 ice creams, and both of them are actually frozen custards. One of the recipes is titled ice cream, and the other is titled gelato, and they are both frozen custards. Didn't know the difference, really. I knew the names, but I didn't know the difference until I made this ice cream. Frozen custard. I made this chart to help myself see the difference between ice cream, gelato, sherbet, sorbet, frozen custard, and frozen yogurt. So I thought I was making ice cream and gelato only because of the title of the recipe, but I'm putting in both recipes into the same equipment to mix it. So then I thought, well, they're both ice cream. Then I realized, wait a minute, they both have egg yolks. So that makes them frozen custards. So I'm making frozen custards, which is not a problem for me because I love custard. All right, the sugar, the egg yolks have all been added, and I'm going to stir until it gets thicker. Also, I have sifted out the big chunks of ginger. Stirring takes a while. Okay, stirring doesn't take a long time, but getting it to be custardy does. Once it's to the thickness that I like, I sieve it. Whether or not the recipe tells me to, because I have found from pouring custard through wire sieves that there's a lot of little egg parts that don't really need to be in the custard. All right, the ginger ice cream is in one side of my ice cream maker, and I have a double one. So it can do a single or a double, but I don't make ice cream, I'm just going to call it ice cream. I don't make it often, so I do two at the same time when I do make ice cream. Now this one is a pistachio, and it's made very similar. It uses raw pistachio nuts, and that was super exciting because I like a natural flavor and was excited to taste that. It took a while. And also, these have to cool. You can't put them straight from the stove into the ice cream maker. That doesn't work. So here it is, both of the sides filled. As I did this, I realized, oh my gosh, there is a lot of stuff in there. I don't know what's going to happen. It could end up being a big mess. And it's going to churn for a while. When the churning is complete, the ice cream's not super stiff, and it goes into an ice cream container to go into the freezer, usually overnight. I have dedicated ice cream containers, but before I got those, I used whatever kind of plastic leftover food container worked. Okay, I made the ice cream, or frozen custard, or gelato. It's really frozen custard. And I made two flavors, and I have a sample of them in the bowl, and they are yummy. Again, the ginger is my favorite, but then ginger is my favorite. And the pistachio is the strongest flavored pistachio I've ever had. I will probably make these again. I have a rule that for the equipment in my kitchen to stay, I have to use it twice a year. Sometimes I ignore the rule, but generally, and I say sometimes I ignore it because the ice cream maker has been sitting for a while, and I pulled it out for this, and I'm happy that I did, and they're yummy, and I don't even need to put anything on them to add to the yumminess.